Here we are,
Here we are.
episode number 9 of Unspeakable Bliss.
9?
Number 9.
How funny is that? That's like my life number.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
It's perfectly aligned then. And I am here with the one and the only. I'm actually just making sure the YouTube is muted so we don't get any feedback. Perfect. And we're live on YouTube, so we will be speaking both to Anchor on my phone and then YouTube on the video elements as well. So Nikola and I met over a year ago at Home Farm. And Nikola, just as a brief introduction, is a mentor, an empowered woman, absolutely, steward of planet Earth and student of life. She works at Giveth, which I imagine we'll probably talk about at some point today, maybe. And she's a co-founding member at the Diamante Bridge Collective, which I believe has something to do with Giveth, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Cool. And she's at where we met, a former steward at Home Farm. So is there anything, and a dear friend, of course, my soul sister. Is there anything else that you want to add to the introduction?
Well, I'd also say that I'm a very passionate human being. And I love to just somehow be part of creating a positive change in this world in ways that are feeling aligned with my own purpose.
Shall we jump right in with Tantra?
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, there's so much more I could tell as a part of my story, you know, because there's so much behind my even whole story of coming to Costa Rica that I find is a very transformational part of the journey. But I'm always very like keeping it for myself, actually, and not sharing it with many people, just because I don't. Yeah, it's like very private, but it's powerful. So I would maybe leave it here, and if I can give more sneak peeks.
Please. I mean, we talked about this a week ago, and we discussed having a podcast together. Remember, I said something like, "Can you explain to me how we ended up sitting in Costa Rica on the Unspeakable Bliss podcast?"
Oh my God.
Because I mean, how long have you lived here for now?
It's been 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, and it's been an incredible journey. And I think the biggest initiation came when my mom passed away, when I was back in Czech. And that brought a lot of questioning into my life. And I was like, hey, when my life is just so short, what am I doing here? Am I living my dreams? Am I really doing things that I'm being fulfilled in?
When did your mom pass away?
Oh, it's 3 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a crazy story.
I didn't know that.
What?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you see, because
I don't know this.
I don't really share these parts of my story because there's a lot of pain like behind, you know. And she just went to bed and she didn't wake up. And it was 3 days after I went for my first family constellations where I finally got to deeply understand some of my wounds that are coming with my relationship with mom. So there was a lot of healing that I've done, and I didn't get the chance to talk to her about it in person actually anymore. And that was just the beginning of like really me not making any more excuses or any compromise in my life, and just like starting to follow my truth and actually looking for what's my bliss and like which way to go. And that's how I ended up dreaming of coming to Costa Rica, and I ended up carrying my mother's ashes on a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela as like also initiation for me, and like letting go of the past. I did a big ceremony around this big shift in my life, and my mom, you know, passing away, and me taking on the unknown, like going into unknown and not knowing. And Tantra was just like one of the things that I always felt attracted to, and I really wanted to learn more. So I started to just follow my dreams. You know, that's what happened after my mom's death. So the most beautiful things in my life started to come out of it. Yeah, I started to sing and paint, and made my own exhibition. And I dreamed of Costa Rica, and I dreamed of my own teacher coming to Costa Rica, and I contacted him, and he welcomed me. So I'm here. Here I am. I came here. And everything just fell apart again because it wasn't. It was just how to call it. When life just puts you somewhere where you're meant to be, that journey started here. How I really connected with the farm, and even idea of stewardship and land stewardship, and how to connect with the land, which really means how to connect with myself, because I realized here in Costa Rica that what this nature is teaching me really is just to be able to connect with my own nature and understand my own nature, and then be in harmony and honoring, really embodying and understanding deeper what it is, honor self, other self, and the land. And that's the biggest gift that I've received so far here, being here, living here, living here.
So many questions. So was this when your mom passed away? Were you living in Prague at that time? And what is it unknown what she passed away from?
Oh, yeah, that was really weird. Well, they didn't really know, so they couldn't clearly tell. But what they said, that looks like the cause, that just her lungs were filled with the water while she was asleep. She was a couple of years after a heart attack, and she was on a medication. But actually, I noticed that it was a time in her life where she was getting more vital again, and I was happy to see her that, because my mom, she had me when she was 40, so she died when she was 71. We had always big gap between us.
Same with with my mom too.
And there was a lot going on, of course, like, we carry a lot from the childhood. So yeah, I've done a lot of healing actually after my mom died, with her, like with that archetype of mother, really, and my generational burdens or whatever. I don't know. I don't really spend too much time talking about these things, so I don't have a proper names for all of it.
For sure.
There's a lot that just is so rewarding on this journey that's coming.
Yeah.
All the time.
I can't imagine what it will be like when knock on wood, my parents leave their bodies. I cannot imagine that. But so I'm curious, was or is your father in the picture?
My father died when I was 4.
Oh wow.
So my mom was the last parent that I had. Now I have sister, they're much older, sister and brother, and nieces.
There's a saying that you're truly actually grown up when both of your parents pass away.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I guess I'm grown up.
Do you feel any truth to that statement?
Yeah, there's something about it. Yeah.
Like, because you're not a child. You're not anyone's physical child.
You cannot call your mom.
Right.
You cannot call her anymore.
Wow.
You have to hug yourself. You have to really face your inner child. And really that's what happened after my mom passed away. And I went through a period of like the natural grieving, like being adults. I understand the cycles, and I was on my spiritual path for some time. So like, I was, as a being adult person, I was in peace with and understanding that what happened, with it. When I passed through this period of this like an initial grief, then something shifted and the child started to grieve, that little girl, and there was such a different feeling also, because I couldn't really stop it. I had to let that child to just like, I had to give it attention. And she was just like to cry because she lost the parent. And she didn't know, like she was loving the parent, right? So it was very I had some weird shit going on as well in my relationship at that time. Like that boyfriend at that time that I was going through this experience, he like sort of like because there was this polarity shift, he was like starting to tell me that he doesn't feel intimate with me anymore, and he feels actually with my father and he wants to take care of me, and it actually like pretty much ruined our relationship.
Because he started to take on sort of like a parent role.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's really like he was stepping into the role of father somehow, and I like when he shared this with me, I was like, I have nothing in this. Why are you doing this?
Right. Yeah.
But actually, a couple months later, it somehow repeated in a similar but different situation, and that's where I realized that it's actually happening because of me. That I am the catalyst for this.
Mm.
So that's where I started to look deeper. And
What do you mean you're the catalyst for it?
I was a catalyst for this because the child, like I really needed to understand how to give her attention and how to take care of her and how to you know, be the support.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That was the time where I actually started to even connect with some like inner child. What does she look like? How does she feel like? What's my inner woman look like? You know, and my inner man. And it was powerful shift. Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful journey for everyone to like even just go into those places and try to see what are they feeling like inside. You know, this is something like I call the inner family, or whatever, your inner child, your inner man and inner woman, what they look like, what they feel like, how they interact with each other. It's a big part of the journey. So thanks to that, I was able to do some more healing there. Yeah.
You know, just the other day I was reflecting on this. We were meditating on Awake in Giveth in their morning meditation, and I was starting to think about how there's like the in spiritual circles, we'll say, or spiritual communities, the capital S self and the personal self. The capital S self being equivalent to God or everything. And I was just thinking about how, like, to me, that's normal language, or to you, that's probably normal language too. So, like, inner child, and I think to the typical viewer or someone that listens to this, they'll know what we talk about. But I was just reflecting on how deep into that I've gotten and how that's normal language for me. Whereas someone else, when they hear inner child, they might be like, inner child.
I know, right?
Yeah, what is she talking about?
Oh my
inner
God,
child?
this has just happened to me.
Yeah.
Somebody reacted on one of my stories in some sort of like this triggered reaction. And what are you talking about? You really, your reality is like totally out there. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, people, everyone has their own. There's another saying. It's like opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one, or something like that. I don't know.
And that's the beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I really love about like the richness of it. So I'm very grateful for my journey. Just taking me to different places, and it's like you can ask for living a better life. You know, just this is how I feel. I mean,
oh yeah. So I remember what I was going to share with you with the inner child stuff. And this would be a good example too for a listener who maybe isn't as familiar with this sort of thing. One time, I just shared this a few days ago with Logan, Mila's dear soul friend, who's visiting here. I was working with, and then I want to talk about like your spiritual journey and also Tantra and like what Tantra actually is, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. That's why I jokingly began with that. But I think this will relate to it. So I was working on sleep meditation. Do you know what that is? Like the sleep yogas. So you can apparently wake up in your dream, and then in your dream, like meditate. And you can also fall asleep but your consciousness remain awake still.
That's like a lucid dream.
It's kind of like a lucid dream. And I was reading this book it's like kind of a Buddhist practice by Andrew Holochuk and I think Michael Taft. Anyhow, I would wake up after sleeping for like 6 hours. I would intentionally not sleep as much and drink a little coffee, take a cold shower to get my body in like this sort of awake, half asleep state. So I'm still kind of tired. And I was sitting there. I would say this was my most significant inner child experience. It was beautiful because I didn't even expect it. It's not like I was doing an inner child workshop or something, which I've done plenty of that. It's a whole other, multiple different stories. Anyhow, I was with Slavka. We were visiting my hometown in Cleveland. This was like 2 years ago. And I mean, I have already meditated for like hundreds and hundreds of hours. So it's like, I wasn't just beginning this whole thing, which would be a pretty radical place to begin meditating, just trying to start falling asleep and keeping your consciousness awake. If I did start there, that'd be quite interesting.
Don't try that.
Don't try that. Don't try that. Actually, it's totally safe as long as I guess you're not doing it while you're driving. Anyhow, iPhone entered the waiting room.
Somebody's joining us?
Zladka is joining us from the other room. She wants to be on the podcast. But look at this. Isn't this the weirdest thing? Like it says Darren.
Darren entered the waiting
room. Darren left because they realized that they were coming into a podcast. That's funny. Surprise guest.
Hey, maybe somebody's just...
They left. They came out and left. If they come back, we'll let them in. We'll see who it is.
Yeah, okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Go.
The universe is just playing.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So you had this experience with your inner child?
Yeah. So I woke up, did the routine, drank some coffee, took a cold shower, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm practicing this. I'm doing it before I go to bed and right when I wake up, like the time before I sleep and when I wake up. I'm trying to do it when I sleep, but not really control of that much. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden my head is like this. I was sleeping, but I was aware that I was sleeping. I was sitting there meditating, but I was aware that I was sleeping. And I was like, oh. Yeah, I had this experience where my consciousness was aware that I was like, whoa, this dude's body is asleep right now, but whatever this I is, consciousness, awareness, is still awake. And so, I thought that I had the idea that my excitement was going to wake my body back up, because I'm excited because I've achieved my goal now, but it didn't. I still remained sleeping. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm sleeping right now. I am meditating and I'm aware of it. It's the weirdest thing. I could hear myself breathing. I could hear all the noises in the room, but I was asleep, sitting up just like that. And then the next thing that happened, I started dreaming, and I had a dream. We have a guest, our surprise guest for all those listening on Spotify.
Well, this is so interesting, though.
Yeah.
I'm so curious.
Yeah, well, there's no waiting room. So I think it's okay. Yeah, I think Sladka's in the other room trying to use Zoom, and then she's realizing that we're using Zoom. Well, they're going to use Mila's Zoom. Yes. I don't know. We'll find out. I love it. They keep coming in like right when I'm at the peak of this story too, which is interesting. Anyhow, I'm sitting there and I start having a dream, and there's this little boy, and this little boy looks at me, and I didn't even know that it was me to begin with. I just was feeling this. It's like, okay, all of a sudden there's this little boy, and he looks at me, and he like asked me like, what can I do? Like, am I allowed to do anything I want to do? And I responded to him. I was like, yeah, do whatever you want to do. Like, have fun, like enjoy yourself, which was interesting because to me, that was like the healed adult father figure speaking to me through me, being like, whatever you'd like to do. Instead of you have to do this or you must do this or whatever it was. And after I said that to this little boy, he looked at me and said, I want to sit here and meditate with you. And this is where it gets really crazy. The little boy sits in my lap, becomes me, merges into me. And then now there's no difference between the dream, the meditation, and me sitting there sleeping.
he literally sat down and merged into like, so all three fields of sleeping, dreaming, and meditating merged. And it was like nothing happened. I'm just sitting there again.
What a trip. That's
No
a trip.
psychedelics, no nothing. Just
Do you have such an experience?
do you?
Do you have similar experience?
Let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Please. I don't. But that's fascinating.
Well, you've had many, we all have experiences.
Yeah, I mean, this is always something I'm eager to have more of because I'm a very intellectual person, like from nature. But I see myself also very like spiritually grounded.
Yeah.
And there is so much more of the paranormal experience that I'm like really eager to experience. Something like this is pretty cool. It sounds like you work for it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know how much I've shared with you of my story, but I discovered sort of, we'll say consciously, the spiritual path when I was in my early 20s as a result of, well, following my heart. So I was going to drop out of college. I was studying accounting.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do, you do that. And I do that voice as in that's what I thought society wanted me to do. I thought my parents wanted me to do that, which they never explicitly said that, but there was still the narrative of like, make money, get as much of it as you can, and then when you're 60 or 70, then you can retire and then you can be happy. And then that didn't make sense to me, And I realized I'm like, this is my life, or theoretically, if I'm going to college for this and I'm taking this thing sincerely for 4 years of my first adult life after 18 and getting a massive amounts of debt to do it, because I was at a private university that cost a significant amount of money. Anyhow, that was the first decision that I actually made for myself without asking anyone else, was when I was about 20 years old, was instead of dropping out, I decided to study theater and philosophy. And the two reasons I studied theater and philosophy, theater always made sense to me because it's playing for the sake of playing. I'm like, that makes sense. Having fun, telling stories, 100%. And I love art. So I decided to be an actor and then to study philosophy. And I thought I'd either go to continue my acting studies, move to New York or Los Angeles and be an actor, or maybe go and get my master's in philosophy and then be like a philosophy professor or something like that.
That was the idea at the time. Yeah?
Something, yeah. And now I'm doing all of it, except I'm at my own university and I'm still pretending to be the actor Christopher. As I wear this mask that I can't take off. Not right now. I don't want to.
Don't.
I like this flesh suit avatar. Okay, anyhow, so in philosophy, my professor said to me, he said, the only reason anyone would study philosophy is if they want to live a happy life. And I was like, that makes sense to me. That's where I want to put all the, other kids in the classroom, I think they were like, I want to go to my business classes. But it was a liberal arts school, so you had to take a variety of different things, which I'm so grateful for because I didn't know what I wanted to do. That's part of the reason why I went to college. And as a result, this is where it comes full circle. As a result of following my heart, and then not asking for permission from anyone, that was big too. Like I didn't call my mom and dad. I didn't say like, hey, or a partner. I was just like, this is what I want, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give myself fully to it. And as a result of that, sitting in my philosophy class, this guy, he barely spoke up, barely said anything, and it's a what do you call it when not debate, it's not quite a debate, but basically you read different philosophical material and then you come into class and you talk about what you think about it and why you think what you think.
Debate.
Yeah, right? For lack of better words, that's what it is exactly. And so I'm sharing all my own ideas in relationship to the ideas of the philosophical discourse that we're reading. And this dude sitting next to me, Anthony Libertini, he's a photographer, lives in California now, a dear friend as well. He said, you got to read this book, bro, because everything that you're talking about in class is in this book. It's a weird thing to say to someone, right? I look at the book. It's a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. Paramahansa Yogananda, Kriya Yoga.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, I looked at the type cover and it's like this man with long hair. I'm like, kind of looks like a woman, but yoga, because I thought it was like yoga movement stuff, not really it was all about meditation really, and God consciousness, enlightenment, Buddha nature. And that's when I started reading that book as a result of following my heart. I knew I was going to dedicate my life to that in some way, shape, or form. And that's when like memories of an 11-year-old came rushing back to me, where I'd be looking up at the cross, the crucifix of Jesus, and I would think, what's in that guy has to be in all of us. Otherwise, this is just bullshit or a scam or whatever it is. But I forgot about that, because where's that going to grow when I'm a Catholic schoolboy? Anyhow, as a result of following my heart, that's kind of how I got back on the path. And all of this is to say, you said it sounds like I worked for that experience. I've meditated. Listen to me. I've meditated and now it's just a practice. I just do it at least sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 2 hours a day, but 100, I just do that. That's part of the practice for me, is meditation. Yeah, and part of it is because I want to have these incredible enlightening experiences, but not just to have the experience. I think it's really, I want to feel who and what I am in truth at 100% capacity.
And it is it's an act of self-love, right? Like what you're doing, basically you made it part of your life. It's not that you're doing it to get somewhere exactly, but it's for
I've done a lot of that.
And we all have
to get enlightenment.
And it's always a good reminder, because I think it's something that really always there, that's the masculine, no?
And it's the mind.
It
wants to do the thing to get the thing.
And it's all right.
Right, exactly. Right. And being gentle on that part of myself. That's been huge too. It's like, oh, okay. I see that what's arising in Christopher as he's meditating is the desire for freedom, because he's buying into the illusion that he's not free right now. Okay, that's okay. It's okay. That's just what's arising.
Yeah. Then you get to get on the other side of it and just enjoy the presence of it, and whatever is the gift that comes with each one meditation that you sit in.
Because it's all really, that was at Awake, we had a little mushroom, like a light 2-gram mushroom journey. It was heavy for me. It was really heavy.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like 2 grams.
Well, right, yeah, and that's for other people. Everyone seemed like a really joyful, blissful. Fear was arising for me. So much fear, but it wasn't connected to anything. It's not like I was thinking of some life circumstance. I was just feeling fear in my body, full fight or flight. And I laid there. I was alone. I was with everyone, but then I was like, hey, I'm called to be alone, because I wanted to work through it. And I have confidence in myself. I've done that many times with plant medicine and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and there was the beloved and the cosmic mother hugging me, and tears of gratitude at the beginning, but then it turned into this fear thing. And I was sitting there, Nikola, laying there, and I was trying to do an intellectual, well, who's the one that's feeling the fear? Nope. It's just feel it. And then I noticed that everything that I was doing was an attempt to make it different than it was. And then then my mind, and I think we share this, I definitely have a very intellectual mind when it comes to lots of different things. And it can be my own worst enemy, because I was like, oh, I need to surrender. Why do I want to surrender? So that I can make this different than it is. I was like, I can't even surrender. And I wish I could say then the surrender happened. And it was just again and again, this message that I felt was just this is the experience of what's arising, which is fear. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I kind of gave up. I kind of did give up to it. And I was just breathing through it. I'm like, all right, fear is arising. Can't do anything about it, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Mushrooms, they can do this. They're such an amazing teacher. I mean, reminded me of my own experience with my first real mushroom ceremony, actually, that I had.
Yeah.
On the farm. I just want to say something. People think that I've gone through so many things because, ceremonies and plant medicine journeys and stuff like that, because I am diving deep last 8 years, and it's been just all around me all the time. And I've been just saying no. I was saying no, you know. So
Mm.
last year when I finally started to be ready.
Except her coffee. She says yes to her plant medicine coffee often. I know that.
Coffee and Santa Maria. Like Santa Maria is my friend, you know,
Yeah.
like that's my medicine, but it's because it's so gentle and it's, like I know how to work with that to my biggest benefit.
Mhm.
However, I wanted to say
I think you were talking about your journeys with what you said reminded you of your
medicine,
plant medicine.
right. Reminded me
with
the first
mushrooms.
experience because it was kind it was a lot, and I think I had something similar to what you had to grams, and it was for the first time, but it was, you know, in a beautiful feminine held space by women at the home farm. So I was like really proud of myself and happy to have this as my first experience, just to begin with, like to wait for when that experience is calling you, really, when you feel that everything is aligned right, not to rush anything. It's just really also to feel ready and prepared for that teacher. I have a big respect for all the plant medicines and all the wisdom that's being carried in the nature. And with this, you know, humble approach, and it's just a beautiful journey for me. But I was also ready to see or receive anything. And because I know that what they do is really kind of just like mirror to you whatever your inner reality is, mushrooms, right? When I was going, that's what I believe, that's what I think. When I was going into, I was feeling coming to me, I felt a lot of darkness there. I mean, I had this vision of the darkness coming at me with this like a rainbowish flashes, so surreal, and like I wasn't ready to go there, and I did not. It was this beautiful dance of me like being in control and allowing actually.
Well,
things to
that's
happen.
interesting. You said
And then,
I wasn't ready to go there, so I didn't. So you kind of were. You kind of. It sounds like you decided that there was this place that you had the opportunity maybe to go into, and you were able to.
but you had no choice.
Oh. I didn't have any choice. I was just like, this is what I'm feeling, and then
And that's a beautiful teaching of like accept, man, feel it all. I love it. I love, especially when guys allow themselves really like feel everything. I think it's beautiful. Be reviving, be activating.
It was really hard, you know. It's like I just didn't want to feel that. Why am I feeling this? Like, why am I suppressing fear? Am I? And I'm trying. And then like that's the worst part. When I'm on the habit and then I'm trying to figure it out. It's like that's not helping either. And it's again taking me away from just feeling it. So every time I did a technique, it was just like I felt like I was being like a tidal wave of like, no, Christopher, just feel it.
Yes, I love it. They're like, this is how you do it. Listen.
Well, hey, this is a good point maybe to talk about. I love your bracelet. It's beautiful. It's stone. Can you show it to the?
Yeah, it actually should help me with communication.
And that's tiger eye around it as well. Yeah. It should help me.
So what you wanna bridge where?
To Tantra, and here's how, because my experience. I'll share with you what I think it is, and like I want to hear from you your experience of what Tantra is, your experience with it, and then maybe some further insight into what your spiritual practice has been like and how that ties into the mentorship that you're doing. And then maybe if we get to, we can get to the Giveth stuff, but so that's a lot, but I can come back to it. My mind does it kind of creates these like
keeps me on track. If you can keep me on track.
So with Tantra, I was thinking about with the mushrooms, because I was talking about the mushrooms basically just being like, Christopher, feel this. And my experience with Tantra, limited, very limited. But one of my teachers was a Tantra teacher for like 15, 20 years, Kashmir Shaivism and Advaita Vedanta. So non-duality and then Tantra. And Tantra is like, in a way, the not opposite, but the polar opposite of non-duality, where non-duality is like everything's consciousness, it's just consciousness, and it's not the body, it's not, we're all of it, basically. It's the path of rejecting it, ultimately accepting it to say it's all of it anyhow. Whereas Tantra, it's like there's something around the holy tremor, which I've heard of, which the holy tremor of life is feeling it and going into it and realizing God or spirit through the physical experience, through like feel the feelings, feel the thing, where then that's how it's opposite to non-duality, where it's like just going to the consciousness, the not physical aspect. Is that in your experience what
Yeah,
Tantra is?
totally. Because there's
Which
this
isn't about
wholeness.
sex, not just sex, you know, and I think that's one of the misconceptions.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
exactly. It's really, yeah, where to start? I mean, it's really, for me, it's really beautiful you said it, because to me it really is using on the, is building on on duality, on polarity. It's using the wisdom of like what it is to be that embodiment somehow as well.
But embodiment is a good word there too.
Yeah, I mean, what Tantra really taught me was to feel my body and feel my feelings deeper. And there is something that feels very holistic. And what Tantra works with is the life force, really, ultimately, right? Because our sexual energy is the most powerful energy that we have here.
Hence Creatrix, right?
It's Creatrix, exactly. And it's the most creative one. And yeah, it was such a big shift for me when I actually started to see that there is so much more to that energy. And let's stop calling it sexual, because it just leads us to a limited mindset.
And all the conditioning.
Right,
Society
conditioning.
and
But
stuff.
when there is a life force, which that really is, because that's where the life is born, and it's being used in different ways, you know, it can just bring so much benefit to one's life in so many different levels. And Tantra, I think there is crazy amount of books that I could read and teachers that I could talk to, and I would never, I feel like I would never stop learning. I am still feeling like a very beginner and like very beginner student of Tantra. And it's also to say that I'm not what I'm doing with myself, with my own life, is not that I'm actually like wanting to like merge with some specific philosophy that's like outside of me, but I am actually learning how to like reach that wisdom that's within me.
Very tantric of you.
Right.
Ironically, right? In a funny way.
At some point, I started to really stop searching for outside knowledge, because I felt like I have enough of understanding the basic principles that are really just energies and polarity and breath and vibration and sound and all of that together with human interaction. The more one person just like really even practices to feel how to feel energy, it comes in pretty fast, I'd say, once somebody starts to practice. So for me, it's now I'm learning through my living experience more about Tantra, really. But there's so many amazing techniques and practices, and yeah, and also, you know, my spiritual practice is changing with my cycles, and really depends where I'm at in my life. Sometimes I find it more important for my spiritual practice just to be sitting surrounded by nature and be in a silence and meditation for hours. And sometimes for me, it's just like really dancing or doing a little bit of a breath exercise or just like stimulating my mind. And it depends where I'm at in my life and where I need to channel my energy into what. It's like my work, my self growth, or my relationships. Yeah.
I just have so much appreciation for sitting here listening to you. I'm like, what a life.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, and I'm so grateful that I met you, because you're one of the people that are dear to my heart, and I feel like there's this like soul family vibe to it, and all together with girls, and just you're just like friends for life, and it's beautiful to feel family all over the world. I also had to shift what it means for me home, and like the place that I call home, and instead of place, instead of house.
Yeah. Like literally as you were speaking, it was like I went into this kind of portal when you were talking about your practices of a time like not that long ago for me, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where this, like talking to you, knowing you, hearing about your practices, what you're committing your life to, having a podcast, talking about, like that was a total dream. And here we are. Okay.
God,
Wow.
living the dreams,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
That's what 22 is for me.
22.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
It feels like it.
Pinch me. You know, I realized that
real!
that's the thing. So I had a lucid dream the other night, and I pinched myself
In the dream.
in the dream, and guess what happened? I felt dream pain.
Oh my God, dream
It felt just
pain.
like this. I was like, wait, I feel dream, but I knew I was dreaming. I was pinching my body, and I was like, well, that hurts. That hurts just like it hurts when I'm awake.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Because there's a dude, you know that saying, right? Pinch me, I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of before I got taken off into this portal that I had. Was when you were over here last week. I'm pointing there because we were sitting on this chair that's now in our bedroom for the podcast. Anyhow, we were sitting out on the deck here, and I think I was telling you about how I've given up specific forms of information right now too. Like you were talking about, you could probably learn endlessly about Tantra, and I'm a nerd. Like I'm such an intellectual nerd about psychology, philosophy, consciousness, current, like everything. I listen to maybe sometimes between reading books and listening to stuff, like sometimes 3 hours a day. And I'll listen to it on like double speed so I can get more of it in smaller amount of time. And I love it and I appreciate my mind. But Vodka actually, she invited me. She said, babe, I think for 49 days, because it's like the amount of time that apparently Buddha meditated for before. It's 49, it's a nice spiritual number. She said 49 days, don't consume anything. And so I'm on that journey. It's like day, I don't know, 35. But interestingly, like I gave up meditation once too, because I was attached to it. Like I was really, it hasn't been hard. Now, well, because I'm not listening to stuff more, guess what I'm doing more of? Do you know? What is this eyebrow thing you're giving? What does that mean?
Tell me.
I'm creating more. Talking about create. Yeah, I know in all the ways, right? Because I'm not consuming more of other people's this or that. So I'm feeling more, I'm creating more. Right now, this is a really good example. And like, for example, the time, I know this is a small example, but the time that it requires to be in communication with others, maybe I wouldn't have sent that message to you or responded to you and like, hey, yeah, let's create this right now. Because I have like, let's say on average 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's 14 hours that I'm learning or intaking other stuff. Whereas now that minimum 14 hours, I'm in conversation with people, I'm coaching, I'm doing a podcast and going, whatever it is. So it's like I have more time and I'm just more in my life, which I like, I appreciate.
More present.
Yeah, for
Presence,
sure.
Right?
Yeah. So how did you become a mentor? How did you get into mentorship? Yeah, let's start here. What's that journey like? Or what is it like?
Well, It actually did started with me learning about Tantra, going into tantric massages, becoming a tantric masseuse,
Mhm.
uh, which was an amazing learning lesson to begin with. And like that allowed me to practice and deepen my feeling a lot.
Mhm.
Because for me, it was really just to learn how to feel things, because it's all about the energy. So once I saw that I need to, so something I learned about myself is that I need to go deep, like deep, no matter what I'm doing. Um, it's something very important to me. I need to have a deep meaning, deep sense in my actions, in my days, in my life, and that was a big driving force.
Yeah.
And I learned as I was practicing that, I can go deeper. It's not just, I don't want just people to come spend 3 hours with me and like trip elsewhere. They have experiences like like having an amazing gastronomic experience and going back home and not really taking good care of yourself. You know what I'm saying?
What I'm hearing you say is when you provide a deep experience or you're co-creating a deep experience with someone else, not only do you like, yeah, maybe it could be great that you have like some big cosmic this or that, but it deeply matters that it's meaningful and then integratable across other areas of their life. Something
Right.
like that.
Yes. And what it meant for me, it means continuous, consistent work.
Mhm.
Right? Because like it's the time and steps to be taken and it's all the evolution. So because I like knew about myself that I I somehow am here to help others to like bridge, like get over the bridges, like help in the between space. It was very honestly very frustrating thing to learn about myself, because when I started to search for my purpose, I was searching for specific things, more specific things than just like this. I'm here to guide others from one end to another. But this is what I kind of had to accept, and it just
Why was that frustrating?
because it somehow bridges into my relationships and into my intimate relationships. So that's the challenging part about this gift, because usually I am attract like people that are attracted to me. Am I saying it right? People that I am, yeah, they are attracted to me. They're in some sort of transition in their life. That's my observation when I'm talking about guys. But I don't want to go there right now. But that's the reason why I also started to want to be uh, something like a guide or mentor. And I'm still not 100% feeling like good about calling myself a mentor, because I'm just really here to reflect things to people, give them perspectives, help them to zoom out and see what they can do different and what they can work on. Really, I think that's what I'm here to really show people, is hopefully show them how they can reach their own guidance, their own inner guidance, their own inner, like whispering and all this, like this own inner authority, like self-worth, self-love, all of this. So that's like, because it's my journey, this is how I got, to where I'm at. Like after searching at all the different places outside of me, I went to a place where I accepted this is who I am, and maybe I just love this from this thing, and like this thing from a Buddhism, and this thing from a Mayas. You know what I'm saying? Like the mind wants to belong somewhere and to be in the box or not. You know what I'm saying? There's just this conditioning, like we condition ourselves all the time.
This is why yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy the mind's conditioning, but this is one of the reasons why on my Facebook, you'll see that it says I'm an unteacher.
Unteacher.
I'm an unteacher
I love that.
because I want to help people. The idea I say it gets crazy because even that then could become a dogma, or I could start making a false identity around that one specific thing where that doesn't actually fully encapsulate it too, which is why any of these labels are challenging. But yeah, I was thinking when you were speaking, talking about maybe not feeling totally comfortable calling yourself a mentor. What if you called yourself a mirror, or
Mirror.
an alchemical mirror? Maybe.
Yeah, it's the fun. I mean, I could do that, and then I have to think about like who I want to talk to, you know, and how
Yeah.
what these people really, what will they understand, if like what I want to translate. So
That's the
there's like
thing.
this
That's the thing
constant
about it,
thing.
right?
Mhm.
Because it's like you want to say, or I've wanted to say in the past, it's like somewhere I want in there coach or guide or something that's a signpost to say, feel like alchemical mirror, like what does that mean? So it's interesting,
Uh-huh.
and it's so interesting, especially with the nature of the work that you're doing, and the nature of the work that I do, because it speaks directly to this dichotomy of how I view myself and then how I'm viewed by society or whatever the other is.
Right. And it's this fun dance. So, but that's, you know, what was leading me into really thinking about mentorship, because I had collected so many powerful tools on those 8 years, because I was like, you know, going for it, and I was for one intense year really on a spiritual search. Like I was going for all those retreats, and like really trying to
Just after
get
your
to
mom
know
passed away.
myself better, because there was this time of it also in my life where I was like burned out from doing sales and searching for where can I go next, and not really knowing about myself much. So I was like, I really wanted to dig deep. Anyways, so I had so many tools, and it actually all became with me writing, starting to write a book when I was here after one pretty powerful first half a year here in Costa Rica. I went through a lot, and just somehow at that moment things started to, for the first time, click in, and just started to make more sense in my head. And so I was able to channel a lot of that information onto a paper, and I started to write that book. That was basically like the whole concept of like all the things that you want to have in mind when you're on a spiritual journey, like duality and like action and reaction, and what's polarity, and like how to work with sexual and like a life force energy and all these things. You know, I started to realize all these like these aspects that we face during different times, some of them more, some of them less, sometimes all of them at once, and we don't. You know, it's just like, oh, it was beautiful, brilliant time period that I had, and I started to think about how could I actually guide somebody else, you know, help guide with these things. Because I think it's pretty much universal, a lot of what's in there. And this is how it all started. And you know, when I was living at the home farm for that whole year, I put all these dreams away, you know, and I really put myself in the service, and I really wanted to help that place to just grow, and it was beautiful, beautiful journey. And I didn't really made myself a priority enough to go deeper. But now, you know, as everything just somehow unfolded, and this seed that I planted inside myself about this mentoring and the concept, the whole concept that actually now I get to practice with my client, uh, just all came very naturally, and there was nothing I could do to push myself, and I had to accept this part of the journey as well, because it had it all had its own timing. And I had to go through periods in my own evolution to be able to get to a place where I'm right now, where finally I'm like just so much in confidence and accepting that like there's no doubt in my reality about me not knowing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the big shift, I guess.
Mm.
So it all just naturally, grew. It became a little young plant inside me. And as I was working on listening to the heart, because like I'm on the heart journey all the time as well, making sure that I always listen to my intuition. Sometimes it's about making difficult decisions and like not being 100% sure, but really since you listen to the heart, it always plays back, and that's my experience. So somehow this guy who used to be my client, who used to come for a tantric massage, actually called me, and he became my first client. But now I get to mentor guide long distance, and I get to actually give him and share with him the toolkit that I have ready now.
Mm-hmm.
Being an empath, being able to feel and read a lot of other people's energy is just really making this more amazing, magical.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that there's some points, I've had this many times, where you're feeling something, and the courageous thing or the difficult thing is, oh fuck, I got it. Not I have to, but I know that it would be deeply of service if I brought this up into the field and spoke to it, to this client or to this person, and said, hey, what I'm feeling right now is this. I don't know if this is it, but this is, because you could be wrong, right? But most of the time you're right about it. At least my experience is that if I speak to it, at least there's some, even if it's just like, yeah, I'm feeling just some weirdness in the field right now. Like, feel it in my throat, and like maybe there's something between us. Even that sometimes.
So something that I learned from Tantra specifically,
Mm-hmm.
great practice, that everything is divine. Whatever you're carrying with the information,
Whatever's arising is divine.
Whatever is arising is divine.
I
Exactly.
love that.
So that's like, yes, maybe you are wrong, but if like the impulse is
Even
there,
that's divine.
that's divine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because if the realizing is there, oh, I made a mistake, then it becomes a learning lesson, and that's what you needed, right? So everything that's arising is divine.
Mm-hmm.
And I also notice and trust that, we most of the times attract the people that are somehow sharing similar stories. So our reflections are important because we share something in the story. Because ultimately what's happening here with humans, all of us, right, is that we have all the things to go through somehow in different order, and like we all experience the same shit, right?
Oh, if anyone's that's watching on YouTube and on the replay, when she
comes in for you, you're going through it too, right?
I mean,
I love that.
You had your heart broken, and you were fearing to like cross your boundaries, and I don't know, you let your boundaries to be crossed as well, and like all these things that we have here as a human experience, we all share them, just in different order. So that's like, why don't we just like respect where we are at the journey? And I love you for your uniqueness, and you love me and for my uniqueness, and we can celebrate our different opinions and do that, right?
I'm loving this. The last like 3 or 4 minutes is such a gem of what you said. Like that reminder is so big of, for example, when I was feeling the fear with the mushrooms, or sometimes I'll feel this tight ball in my throat, and it's like, it can be agonizing. It can be the most painful thing, but I swear so many times that when I really look at it, or when I really, really go and investigate it, the thing that I thought was fear of speaking my truth or whatever, it actually turns out to be like this immense energy, divine, like what I thought was this ball where I'm afraid to share my truth is like a diamond life force of my ability to share truth. in the mode. It's like I misidentify it, or I see it in a way that I'm judging as wrong, but I have these mental ideas that kind of create but then when I really feel it, I'm like, oh man, this actually is the divinity that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
What what question I'm dying to ask you right now, for the sake of
Oh my
all
God.
beings everywhere.
Oh my God.
The maximum recording time for a segment is 60 minutes. Keep an eye on the clock. Good thing I saw that. I want this to continue.
We're talking for 1 hour already.
I know, right? I'm gonna keep the recording
Are you
going.
gonna post the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm able to put them together and post it in one podcast.
Wow.
I've been getting technical with this stuff, and surprisingly, it's pretty easy on this app. You literally just drag and drop it, and you can put like 3 audio files in one. Anyhow, I don't know where it left off because the anchor stopped recording. What I was sharing with Nikola here is the thing that I'm very curious about, because she's mentioned it multiple times. What exactly, if you want to talk about it, is a tantric massage? Like, what is that?
Oh yeah. Tantric massage is a beautiful ceremony.
Mhm.
It's a ritual.
Mhm.
It's also a deep healing session. It's like, the way I learned tantric massage is that, first of all, there needs to be clear conversation and agreement made at the beginning. As to people need to know exactly what's going on. So one of the most important things for this to go into the directions that usually we want, which is more blissful, more surrendered, more receiving mode, is to create a safe space, safe place, right? And trust. And for that, you need to speak clearly about things that you want the other person to be prepared for, first of all, as the one that's giving, and also just set the whole intention for this session. And usually it goes to deeper than just like, hey, I just want to relax my body. Usually it goes into that's the way, like I'm talking about the way that I really work with this, okay? And I just want to say that there's 1,000 of types of probably different experiences that you can have with tantric massage, and that's the thing. Like, I don't really know what it really is. I mean, I know from my teacher who taught me that this is that way, and then on the other side of the world, it can be totally different experience, and it doesn't even need to be that. When I did tantric massage, would be some of my colleagues that would do it in ways that I wouldn't agree with, and they still got to call it tantric massage. So I don't want to talk about what's right or wrong, because I don't really know what's right or wrong. But I was just blessed enough to be in a place where I could just really go into doing it the way that I feel is right, and because it's resonant with my heart. And that was many times in a different, like, usually guys would expect, to have some sort of like a sexual experience, to put it, for lack of the better words, just to put it in this way. And many times there happened that, I would say, sorry, but I'm not going to do it. And we're not going into the session, and I would send the client away. And that's why I love working with that place that I was, because they allowed me to do it the way that I want to do it. And that means I would say to a guy, everybody who came, I said, don't expect that you're gonna like reach climax here. Okay, this is not why you're here.
It's not about the climax, but it's about going as deep as you possibly can go, something like that.
It's more about really even like teaching your body how to feel in the different ways, and how to actually sense your sexual energy, and teaching your body how to consciously work with it.
Okay, so it does have something to do with working with the sexual energy. That doesn't mean you Okay, I'll just clarify as clear as I can because of all the different things that I've heard about
And because
Tantra.
it's like, yeah, and maybe I'll just like
Yeah, go
add
for it.
before you go for the clarification. I totally appreciate
Yeah,
it. It's it's also because normally the client is naked from the head to toe, and the tantric massage is really like a whole body experience from head to toe, and there's like not a place on the body that would stay untouched if we didn't agree on something
right, that's something other than
before.
that.
So that's why to have this conversation before, it's like so crucial and important always to make sure that we know what we're going to be doing and what they're asked to be doing. Because tantric massage means to do so many different things. When they came to me, I'd say we were going to work, we were going to awake your energy, we were going to move it around your body. You need to do this and this and that to help to work with that.
What is that the same thing every time? Those three things?
Yeah,
What
there's
is
three
it?
keys. It's a breath, sound, and movement. You're being basically asked during the massage. So when this initial phase is done, we have clear agreement, and we know that it's going to take from 2 to 3 hours, and we are setting the right intention, and we know that, for example, we're not going to.
It's an explicit podcast. You can just say it if you want to.
Which is not going to like massage your prostate, or something like you're
Sure.
not going to go in these places.
Every area on the outside of the body.
Outside of the body, right? But sometimes people are sensitive even around that, and especially when it's like a first experience, we really want to honor, like make sure that there is just like only as much as that person can take. And sometimes just receive for 2 hours with just being deeply in your breath means your breath is deep. What happens naturally is that if you breathe like this in this rhythm for a little longer, I don't know how long it takes for actually your body really starts sensitize. So then the tantric touch comes with different ways of touching, and basically like they call it like taking down the layer of the onion, right? Because it can be touch can have so many different ways, and each is awakening that skin, and that basically the biggest organ that we have on the body in a different ways. And really what is teaching you to, first of all, feel more, learn how to receive. Now you're like supposed to lay for 2 hours and you're receiving really beautiful massage. And for some people, it can be just like so much to even like receive. There's like, we don't know how to really open to receive love as a human. So there's like so many beautiful like deep layers in that one session. There's different ways how that massage is being done, and you can use like hot stones and really create as diverse experience as possible to bring as much feelings and experience to the body. And then the work of the masseuse is also to actually purify. So there is like basically with the massage, with the touch, is being made in a really slow motion. Is the energy is being, first of all, like purified outside of the body, and then when the person receives from the other side, it's being brought in. And then my favorite way was always lead them more into a really like feeling the energy, sending it into the heart, and just having that sensory experience. I wouldn't go actively into like any more of the guidance, because there are ways, of course, how you can guide somebody into whole body orgasmic experience by a specific breath exercise, and yeah, there's plenty of stuff that can be done. But I think what really matters to me is to take the attention away from that limited area of experience, which is really under the belly, right?
Right. Right.
How to learn how to expand this energy
Yeah.
outside. And that's, to me, what really tantric massage is good for having this experience. And with good masseuse, support and help, that you can have that experience so much more easier. And also, it's just like the taste of it. Now you have to do your own part, your inner work. Now you have to go on to get somewhere else.
Like a self-practice.
Self-practice, but also, bring it to your connections. Like, talk
Okay,
about
bring that in.
people,
Okay, yeah.
bring it into the life, to the embodiment. So that's like tantric massage.
It's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, and it's not the only thing. It's
Right.
just one of the tools that I want to be using. So that's why I don't call myself tantrika anymore. And I don't even associate myself much with tantric community, because I see myself more as somebody who's more holistically just I don't know, I don't want to have a figure.
Well, I like the Creatrix, because I think that covers, what you're. I would imagine with the client that you're working with that you talked about that. Well, I'm sure that's interesting because you worked with this person as a tantric massage client, but now you're doing sort of like mentorship, maybe some spiritual work, I imagine, and things like that. And so I imagine the same sort of core principles that you spoke to of bringing it into your heart, bringing it into your different relationships, bringing it into the light, that's you're probably using a lot of your similar tools in that work as well. Yeah.
It's all the same.
It's
There's
all
nothing new to be invented.
Should that be the name of the podcast? It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same, or everything is divine. What do you like better? Because we kind of touched on both of those today.
What's arising? Everything arising.
Whatever arising. What arises is divine. It's a little too wordy. I don't know. What should put in the comments on YouTube what you think the title of this podcast should be. Do you want to talk about Giveth at all and the work there? Because that's pretty, in being a co-founding member of the collective. Or do you feel that we could do that for the second time I have you as a guest?
I think that would be better, because
let's save it.
Diamante Bridge Collective and
that's
Giveth,
a big conversation.
It's a big conversation, and both deserve attention, because both are amazing revolutionary projects that are really, wow, they're carrying a lot of potential that can bring a lot of beautiful change to the reality that we don't have to experience anymore. I mean,
let's give a teaser.
A teaser.
And I'll begin the teaser by saying this, and then you could just add whatever else, because this is kind of my understanding of it. Interestingly, Tien's coming over tonight.
Hey, tonight?
Yeah, he's spending the night here because he's giving his talk tomorrow.
I'm helping him. I'll be there too.
All right, cool. So Tien is one of the masterminds, if I could call it that, behind the project that Nikola and I are talking about. And I went to a meeting. Interestingly, the meeting was about alternative currency, which is, as we all know, more and more popular with crypto and other forms of currency. And this whole talk, it was a kind of like a alternative currency conversation around Giveth, around the collective that you're involved with and a co-founding member of. However, he started the talk by saying that the solution to all of this is plant food close to your house. and what so my experience of it is the life that we're creating here on the mountain, the life that, we're bridging this. The whole thing is going to be one collective system. I don't want to say one collective system in Costa Rica, but like hubs, nodes of different self-sustainable, eco-conscious living villages that are completely on an alternative currency paradigm, as opposed to the fiat currency in the world. That's essentially, would you say it in a nutshell?
Well, as you're speaking, I'm just having this beautiful
Please,
insight.
share.
what happens when these two connect? Okay, the A is awesome conscious community rooted with the Mother Earth, knowing how to take care of food, how to permaculture, how to build healthy relationships with self, other self, and the land, and with your neighbors, you know. So when there is, what happens when there is a community that's on the ground that's actually managing somehow to govern itself, not to be so dependent on the outside systems? And what happens when this one connects with the other community that is absolutely virtual, but its biggest intention is decentralized altruism, philanthropy, and making public goods accessible to everyone for free? What if this exists in a virtual world and it's like sneaking in the public nonprofit sector, because that's what's happening right now, which is like, and the nonprofit sector is also being more and more interested in the Web3 and DAO and all this beautiful language and innovative innovative communities that are being right now online. So yeah, we're connecting and bridging really to worlds that have the tools, and that's the thing. Like, it feels like right now we have
Magic
the
is gonna happen.
tools.
I think that's what's gonna happen.
And so it's like we have the tools. Do you
We're
believe
creating
it? Yeah, it's
We're
really
creating
like
it.
now I'm just paraphrasing the Griff Green saying like, hey, we have the tools. Do you believe it?
Yeah. Wow. Well,
That's
and
a teaser.
that's the teaser, but I do want to say one thing just for clarity of understanding. 'Cause
Okay.
maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it's not free. I mean, it is free in the way that we would think of being free, but to me, what I hear is it requires, like the recipient of that, it requires their participation in the community in some way, right? It's not like this is a service that's going to be provided for all. Well, maybe ultimately everyone all around the world, exactly, but like you can't benefit from it, but not be a participant in it, right? And that's the exchange that I'm kind of speaking to. There's an exchange,
Well,
or is there not? I don't know. Maybe it's right.
there's I would say there are some layers of exchange, and now when we're talking about public goods, we're talking about, okay, we can talk about like all that I can see that's coming into the Giveth, onto the platform, means all the projects that are coming onto the platform. Like, I'm the filtration person. I need to really go and make sure that's like all good. So
wow,
I
that's
get to
really good.
see it all,
Oh,
and it's
cool, wow.
amazing. And
It's a lot of work, I imagine.
no, not really. I
Okay.
mean, the basic criteria for listing is pretty simple. When I get to read a lot of amazing projects, and what public goods and really what it means in terms of like how it works with Giveth, that would be for sure for next podcast. But it's about really how you can come up with a project that will solve the biggest problems on the planet, that are what? Not enough food, shelter, and water. So first,
And war.
yeah, right. So first you would go, and there are many projects that are supporting shelters for kids in Africa, except the donation goes right from this wallet directly to that wallet. There is like transparency. There's no like, hey, we're gonna give 5% to these people.
And that's what you mean by free. The
for
project is
free,
funded for free.
This project is getting the
Okay.
support for free.
I
Means
see.
those
Okay.
people
All
can
right.
potentially
I
get
understand now. Yeah.
their food and shelter for free. And there is more to it, because this can actually sustain itself if it's like used in the right way.
Yeah.
As with all the potential that crypto actually has, that there is thing called like a bonding curves and smart contracts and all these things called liquidity pools, where all the tokens can just like grow, and you can come into your garden and harvest your value that just passively grow over the night, just because you staked whatever amount of your tokens that you didn't donate, or you actually did donate to a verified project and you receive some value back, because that's another thing. It's like so much cool stuff is happening in the Giveth. Yeah, right. So whatever you receive back, you can actually stake into pools and come and harvest in your garden every day. Your new tokens that just grow overnight. And yeah, so there is a lot to it, and I am still such a beginner, you know.
You're a beginner at everything.
I am beginner.
That's beginner mind. You know, Zen Buddhism, beginner mind.
Yeah, I
'Cause then
think
they don't get fooled
I'm
into
very natural in the
thinking
beginner mind,
Yeah,
because I
beginner mind is
realized
where it's at.
because I'm such a big learner. Yeah.
I'm a beginner too. Okay, well, that is definitely enough of a teaser for the next episode. Maybe we'll name this. I was thinking something was coming like alternative currencies, the divinity of everything, and Tantra. Something because we covered a lot of bases.
Wow. It's gonna be
right?
so much. Hey, if you
It's a lot.
if you look at it all the way here, I want to know about it.
Yeah. Let us know your
Oh, man.
comments.
If you made it, we should make it like somehow rewarded. Hey, if you made it all the way here, now you get to hear something very spicy.
You're working in the Giveth idea into it. I love it. Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you thought about it. Let us know what your experience of our conversation was, and we'll see you. I'll see you next time on Unspeakable Bliss.
Thank you for having me, Christopher. I had a really awesome chat.
It's just fun.
It's always good to talk to you. No.
We're gonna go have breakfast.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
So much pleasure. Thanks.